Yeah. Yeah. Welcome, everybody, to our continued fantastic all week long episodes of SuperShare. Now, this week is extremely special for Q SuperShares because it is Spring Q week. That is right. All this week, the Q team and the Q community will be ascending to Palm Springs for one of the greatest PD conferences you've ever been to. And for many of us, the first face-to-face conference that we've been to in quite a long time. Now, if you have not been able to travel to Palm Springs, but you still want to, there are still tickets left. Just go to q.org/spring and sign up. We will be having the conference this week, March 17th to 19th. That is Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in Palm Springs, California. And this week in SuperShares, we are bringing at you guests who are going to be there, friends of Q who are going to be showing amazing things at their booth in the convention center, but also in presentations. And so that's what this week is all about. So today, this episode, we have David from Renaissance. David, welcome again to the show. You participated in SuperShares at our last Spring Q, which was virtual. But now this year, it's going to be face-to-face, and you're going to be there. The Renaissance team is going to be there. So before we get started, David, tell everybody who you are, your role at Renaissance, and maybe a little bit about what Renaissance is if people don't know.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe. I am so excited that we're going to be back in person at Q this year. I can't tell you, it's going to be great to see people, see teachers, and have conversations about literacy. And so if you're not familiar with Renaissance, Renaissance is probably best known for accelerated reader, but we have lots of other tools like Myon, Freckle, Lalilo. Nearpod is now part of the Myon family, and so understanding all those components. But I'm a former elementary teacher, a former elementary school principal, and so what I want to focus on in our conversation today is all about literacy and literacy growth. We know this last couple of years have been really impactful on students' ability to maintain that growth. And so I just want to make sure that teachers that are coming to Q know there are some great free resources that live on the Renaissance website. You don't have to be a Renaissance customer to access these resources, and understanding the importance of foundational literacy. And then once that foundational literacy is well in place, understanding the importance of practice and the appropriateness of practice for our students as they develop into good readers.
Now, I think this is an incredibly important topic because during the pandemic, when there was distance learning happening, probably reading for understanding for students or teachers kind of teaching how to read successfully, that probably took a big hit, right? Because
Absolutely.
Teaching a student how to read is a very personal connection between the teacher and the student. And when you're connected virtually, that can be a difficult task. And so I'm really excited to hear what Renaissance is doing and how this this learning and literacy can happen, not only through a computer, but also in a face-to-face classroom.
Absolutely. So you're absolutely dead on, spot on, exactly right. These last couple of years have really expanded, the issues of equity and access, making sure our students have access to enough text to do their reading practice that they needed to do. So we have tools to help support that. But now that kids are back in school, what are we doing to really make sure that we maintain the growth that students need? And so what I always like to talk about is that Renaissance tools are never designed to replace good teaching. So you will never find a tool that, you're going to put the kid in front of a computer or this, this technology is going to do something differently than what a teacher can do. So first and foremost, we want to make sure that we know that teachers are the center of everything that we're going to be talking about today. And knowing that that relationship really that you have with your students is critical. It's the foundation, right? If students trust you and know that you like them, they're going to want to do well and be responsive to you. So that's the first thing we want to make sure we know. Teachers are the center of everything we're going to be talking about. We don't replace good teaching. The second thing we need to know is about those foundational literacy skills. So that's going to be our phonics, phonemic awareness, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and making sure students have an opportunity to get those foundational skills into place. So you are on our website. This is fantastic. This is exactly what we're talking about. If you're not familiar with these ideas, if maybe you're an upper grade elementary teacher and you've never really taught foundational literacy, it's important that you have some understanding of what these skills encompass and what are required in order to branch off from there into that. Once we've gone from learning to how to read to learning from reading, right? So it's making that transition. And a lot of times students struggle when we make those transitions. And so by having understanding of these foundational literacy skills is critical. Dr. Jan Bryan, who's listed on our website, will actually be presenting at CUE. It's a great opportunity to come and learn deeper and learn more about the importance of these foundational literacy skills. But what I really want to focus on is the practice component. Oftentimes we just assume that if we assign 20 minutes of reading practice every night for homework, that students are doing it. And what we know is the research tells us the only people who are doing 20 minutes of reading practice every night are your good readers, right? Your struggling readers are not going home and doing their reading practice because often they don't have the resources, they don't have access, or they're not motivated, or they can't find things that are at their ability to read successfully. So by having tools like Myon, like Accelerated Reader, are just two examples of ways that we can make sure that we're going to give our students those opportunities to get that appropriate practice for reading to, reading with, and independent reading. And each one of those is so important. We've got a blog that's on this same page from our Gene Kearns, Dr. Gene Kearns. If you know anything about Dr. Gene Kearns, you know he takes these very complex learning issues and makes them very comprehensible. So I'd invite your CUE participants to come in, read the blog. It's fantastic. It's just talking about that importance of the different types of reading practice. I used to talk about the original laptop was having kids sit on your lap and reading aloud to them. And so nothing's really changed, but we just need to make sure that we're giving our students the opportunities to have these practices in the school day, because if you think they're doing it at home, you're really only fooling yourself. And so that's that practice, monitoring it for success and making sure that students are engaged, right? If we give them choice, we give them opportunities to find books that are of interest to them, that they like to read. Reading should be fun. Learning should be fun. And somehow, my experience as an elementary principal was, I used to die thinking that, we'd have kids finish 5th grade or 6th grade and say they didn't like school. And I think, how did we do that in such a short amount of time? So I want to make sure we're doing the opposite of that. I want to make sure our kids are engaged. I want to make sure they have enough access to get materials, regardless if they're digital or they're print. We have some pending state legislation here in California that could make a huge impact. So that's legislation AB 2465 that's currently pending. It's stemming from recommendations from State Superintendent Thurman's literacy initiatives. But what this legislation will do is provide each school with a large amount of money that they can use for library books, digital resources. And just know that, we need to make sure that we're letting our legislators know that we support that type of legislation for our schools. And the last thing I want to leave you with is making sure you know about our What Kids Are Reading report. So this is done every other year. We have millions of kids who are taking quizzes, reading in Myon, taking AR quizzes, and we compile that data into the What Kids Are Reading report. And again, this is a free resource. It lists out, you can go in and you can query by your state, grade level, and find popular books. So there you go. It defaults to Wisconsin because that's where our company's headquartered. But we can go in and I can find the most popular books. No big surprise. Island of the Blue Dolphins for 4th grade, right? But I can look at any grade level and find recommendations of books that kids want to read. Also within that What Kids Are Reading report are some social emotional resources, titles that can help support social emotional learning. And this year, we're also launching a new initiative within that report where you can sign up and receive one email per week for only 4 weeks with strategies and suggestions on how to use this resource to increase student reading in your classrooms. So I'm going to pause here, ask if you have any questions, Joe, for follow-up, just for clarification of anything I might have shared already.
Yeah, I absolutely love this because, I spent my career as an educator, as an 8th grade science teacher, right? And so getting students to switch from, reading fiction, nonfiction to reading current events of things that are actually happening, and those connect to content that we're learning about, that's a mind shift, right? But I've never experienced a student learning how to read like at the very beginning. And this year, my daughter, Coletta, is in kindergarten.
Okay.
And I have
You're living it.
I'm living it right now. And it's a beautiful thing, because everything that you said is absolutely true. She's learning to read with sight words, right? So she's understanding what these words are and putting the words together and able to read them. But is she truly comprehending what the words, when they are strung together as a sentence, does she quite understand what the sentence is saying? And so after she brings home, it's called the Tonight book. And so the teacher sends home a book. It's the book she reads for that night. And after every page, I have to say, so what does that mean, Coletta? What does that mean? And what she's doing is she's reading the words, trying to decipher it, but also looking at the pictures to try and comprehend what's going on. And just seeing it happening in her eyes and her brain is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so everything that you're saying about being able to put those words together, learning how to read, learning how to string those together, understanding the sentence, and then understanding a paragraph, and then understanding the story, that growth, I mean, I just have I've always thought kindergarten teachers were some of the most amazing people in the world, but it renewed my love for kindergarten teachers, because they are the crux, the beginning of that journey. Because I think without reading, all the other subjects almost fall by the wayside, right? Because if you can't read, if you are struggling as a reader, you can't comprehend what's being taught, right? And so you're already falling behind. So reading is probably one of the biggest skills that our students need to go. And so I love all this that you're talking about, because of what I'm living through right now, and what I know to be true, as reading to comprehend is important for many, many, many subjects.
Absolutely. It's the foundation. And what I always used to talk about with my teachers was that if our students left our elementary school without having that really solid foundational literacy to read at a fluent rate, they weren't going to graduate from high school. We just know that. Being a solid reader is the ticket to a high school graduation, very much in the way that algebra is the gatekeeper to college. So it's a key foundational piece of learning. It's a key foundational piece for everything else they're going to do in their academic careers. And it's critical. It's critical that we make sure our teachers have the tools and resources they need to be successful in this important key work. And so I invite the CUE participants to come to the Renaissance booth, talk to us, get to know the resources we have available. Again, you don't have to be a Renaissance customer to access the What Kids Are Reading report. You don't have to be a customer to access our blogs. There's some great resources out there that we want to use to help you accelerate your students' learning and accelerate adults' learning. It's part of our mission statement that we accelerate learning worldwide for all students and all adults. And oftentimes people will say to us, well, your tools are designed for, schools. But I always like to mention our engagement in situations like this is how we accelerate learning for adults. So if you have questions, if you want to learn more, we invite you to come check us out, meet us at the booth. We'd love to talk to you and find ways and hear your success stories of how you're using some of our resources to accelerate learning for your students.
I think these are also some great resources that teachers can share with parents as well, right? Because if, parents, especially during the pandemic, have become a co-teacher. And a lot of the parents are like, well, I don't know really how to teach. We need some help. And so by giving these resources to parents to be able to help their emerging readers or their students who are transitioning from one language to another to comprehend reading, these are important resources. So teachers who are watching, take these so that you can really help your students, but also share these with your parents at home, especially if you're a kindergarten teacher, first grade, second grade, third grade, where students are learning how to read, because these can be very important resources for helping the parent help their students at home, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. And we didn't touch on this, but there's a whole, just as many resources available in multiple languages on our website for families to get information about how they can help their children improve their literacy acquisition. We often talk that, parents are the first teachers, right? They need these resources just as much as our teachers do in order to help prepare students to be successful when they start kindergarten. So anything we can do to help further that, just know these resources, there's no limitation on how you can share them and use them. And again, we encourage teachers, administrators, come by the booth, talk to us. Let's find out what your needs are. Let's find out if there's, particular gaps and some resources we might be able to share with you. Again, you don't have to be a customer to access these tools.
Excellent, David. Thank you so much. And I want everybody watching to know that down at the bottom, scrolling across, is for this page to turn the page for literacy growth that talks about the accelerating learning and literacy, the 5 pillars of literacy, that blog post. And then also you can see Dr. Jan Bryan. She's going to be at CUBE presenting for Renaissance on all of these topics as well. So definitely check that link below. And then that one resource with the report and all the books from each state, that is the big link you see on the screen, the renaissance.com/WKAR, what kids are reading. So I wanted to point that out so that everybody has access to these resources from these links. So David, thank you so much for being a part of the program. I can't wait to visit the Renaissance booth so that I get to meet you in person after we've known each other for this past year from doing these episodes. So I'll give you a big high five and a fist bump when we are there. So I can't wait for that. And again, everybody watching, definitely find the Renaissance booth in the convention center so that you can go and talk to David and everybody else at Renaissance all about all the different topics that we're going to be talking about in future episodes of the SuperShare episodes, because we'll be talking a lot more about Renaissance in the days to come. So David, thank you so much for being on the show, and I cannot wait to see you in Palm Springs this week. So have a great one, and thank you again for being a part of the program.
My pleasure, Joe. See you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye. Oh, man, everybody. So David's a fantastic individual. Again, I have had the pleasure of chatting with him about, the SuperShare episodes, and his passion in education and student growth is beyond measure. He's an amazing individual. He is somebody that I think you would enjoy chatting with, picking his brain. Hey, in fact, like if you talk to him at the Renaissance booth, you're probably going to be so enamored by him. You're going to want to hang out with him after hours as well. There's a lot of great places around Palm Springs to hang out. So I'm sure he would love that. But thank you everybody for watching. We can't wait to see you IRL in real life in these next few days. Again, this week, all week, is SuperShares that are celebrating our presenters and our vendors of Spring Q. We can't wait to see you. We cannot wait to see them. And we can't wait to give you all a high five, a fist bump, whatever you're comfortable with, because I just can't wait to see your sparkling face. So until we see each other next few days, I just hope you have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day, because if you're going to be in Palm Springs, I know you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful week.